Hello there. Before you get started with this podcast, I should let you know this was recorded over a week ago. I've been very busy, so I apologize. I'm just now getting around to uploading this thing. When Austin and I sat down, we were planning on this being a Smile 2 review show. It didn't quite work out that way. We had just finished talking about We Live in Time. We were running close to when we had to hop off anyway, but there was a technical mishap that abruptly canceled or kiboshed the recording. So we just decided to hop off, call it a day. So it ends abruptly. It's late. I apologize. We'll be back soon. It's a long road to Gladiator 2. Here's a weird episode of Movie Mode. We are in movie mode. Thank you so much for joining us, whether it's on the YouTube channel or the podcast feed. We appreciate you. We love you. Austin Burke, how are you this early morn?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling ready to roll. It's football Sunday. We're recording a little late this weekend, so it's a pretty good day. But I had a 10-hour wedding yesterday that I was the videographer for, so my back's hurting. It was a Catholic wedding, so it's the longest wedding I've ever been a part of. It was an hour and 20 minutes, and I held a stabilizer that entire time. So a little sore this morning, Ryan.
On behalf of the Catholic people, I apologize. Everything about Catholicism is excessive. We are recording late in the weekend, but this might be the earliest in the day we have ever recorded. I was telling you off air, I got a job that I'm training for this weekend. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I will never tell the internet what I do for a living ever again. But I have to be up super early all week. And I woke up today at 5 a.m. just because.
Oh, just because you're going to have to get ready for that, though, man. You were telling me the time you got to get up this week, and I'm just like, my wife gets up every morning at 5 for her job, and you're getting up significantly before her this week. And so I am just like, good luck, man. That's a hard thing to get used to.
Yeah. I'll be working 12-ish hours a day all week.
Man.
People are like, is it Amazon? No. But it's a few different things, actually. But I'm going to be working long days all week. Thursday might be my only day off to do anything. So, yeah, I'll have to be thinking about how I want to spend my Thursday. But anyway, it's going to be a grueling week.
Yeah.
But we're here early. I let the light in my room. I'm like, it's too early for me to close the curtains, and I don't want to get tired again because it's 9 a.m. So
I was going to ask if you're in a glowing mood today. You looked brighter. Now I know that's the lighting, but I didn't know if you woke up on the right side of the bed. And I'm like, Ryan, man, he's glowing this morning. You look good, man.
Thanks. I've actually been in a terrific mood.
Good.
The last week or so. So, again, not very excited about this coming week, but overall, life's not so bad.
You start a new job, you get the terrifying aspect out of the way, and then it's kind of like, oh, okay, we're doing something different. This is going to be fun. It's going to be hopefully something that you're looking forward to every day. So that's kind of exciting, man. I think it's a fun spot in life to be in.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
But you're kind of in that same boat, right? I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you can at least say you're in the same.
Yeah, a little bit. I've started a new venture, still doing YouTube, obviously. Started a new venture where I am more in the marketing space now, which I've always wanted to be firmly in the marketing space, but now I am. And it has to do with things that I enjoy. It has to do with an app that'll soon come to the Apple Store, in which I'm now a part of. And so that's a really fun venture, man. I don't interact with humans a lot, to be honest with you. I'm in my basement every day behind a camera. And so to actually be able to get on Zoom and talk to people and be in meetings and be in charge of people, which is pretty cool. These are things that I haven't done in years. And so I'm
Yeah.
having to get used to speaking to humans every day other than my wife and daughter. So it's definitely different, Ryan. I feel like a hermit crab every morning when I wake up.
Yeah, you probably gotten used to the idea that people on social media are out of their minds, but now you remember people in person are also out of their minds.
People in person are, I guess, a little bit more normal than the Twitter crowd, but
They are.
it's still interesting getting to see different personalities and remember what it was like working in a setting of people that may not agree on everything, man. Because when I worked for the government, I mean, I loved the people that I worked with, but every now and then they would have viewpoints, and I'm just like, what are we doing? What? So I'm already seeing that with this new job. I'm like, what are we doing? But it's fun to have those interactions and try to make a case for yourself when it comes to your mentality, man. Because I feel like
Yeah.
I used to feel super young when I worked for the government. Now I feel super old because all the people I'm in charge of are a lot younger than me, and so it's like a 180 compared to what I used to do for work. And now I'm like, man, kids these days. Whereas 5 years ago, I'm like, adults. It's so different, man.
Don't let them do that to you. I've been in environments like that where I just like grew overnight because I remember managing a lot of like older people and they had a hard time taking direction from me because I was a young man because I've been in retail management since my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember dealing with that, and now I deal with people who are, just a few years younger than me, and they look at me like I'm a grandpa. It's insane. I'm like, no, you're stupid if you think that. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's like my brother's he's almost 25, and it's not a huge difference. It's a 4-year difference, but
yeah,
we're in drastically different worlds, and I feel like he looks at me like an old man, even though it's just 4 to 5 years. And I look at him like a young kid, even though he's an adult. And so it's crazy how things can switch on a dime when you're about to turn 30 years old. And I'm definitely feeling that right now.
Do you remember when you sat down, like your first day of high school as a freshman, and you looked at seniors like they were grown ass adults? Do you remember that?
Dude, I was terrified of seniors.
That way.
Yeah.
They looked like grown adults. And now it's funny, from our perspective, they look like little bitty kids.
Mm-hmm. I remember, which I was always small, skinny, but I remember freshman, sophomore year, like, wow, I want to be just like these men or these adults. And then you get senior year and you're like, did I really used to look like that? Like a little kid. And now I look at the seniors and I'm getting to the point, man, and I know you're there as well. I'm looking at college kids and I'm like, did I look that young in college? I know I did, but it's crazy how your perspective continues to change. And I'm sure I'll continue to have that 35 getting into 40. Man, I'm close to 40, like that span of like, okay, used to be closer to senior year of high school, 18, you're becoming an adult. I am actually closer to 40 than I am 18. And that is terrifying. Like, it's absolutely terrifying.
It's weird for sure. I'm not terrified of it for some reason. I turn 34 next month. And I just don't really care. When we were younger, again, on topic, when we were younger, 40 seems so old.
It did.
It doesn't seem like it's that old anymore.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, I don't know how old. Forget about like not being able to tell, like if a college student is whatever. I don't know how old anybody is anymore. No clue. No clue. I was just talking about this the other day. There are people at work that are like have kids and families and they're soccer moms and they're just like people that I still see as like motherish figures to me. And then I'll find out that they're like 39. But part of it is that they like, and I don't like, they look older than that a little bit. So like when I found out that the 39, it's not just because I'm like wrestling with like something internally. It's like, you don't look it. Like, you look older. Somebody asked me the other day, how old do you think my coworker is? And I was like, oh, she's got to be like 60s. No, the person I just described as being 60 had just turned 40.
Oh my goodness, man.
So I have no clue anymore. So when people just say, how old do you think? I don't know. I don't know. But when I ask people, and I'm not just saying this, people think I'm still in my mid-20s.
Mhm.
So
That's a good thing, though. I've always said people, especially when I shave that's why I keep facial hair, because when I shave it, they're questioning if I'm old enough to get into an R-rated movie. But
Yeah.
I used to get offended when people would say I look young, and the older I get, the more I'm like, all right, still got some youth to me. I kind of appreciate that. Now I get pissed off when they try to carve me going into a theater. That happened to me. I was 26.
Wow.
I was 26. Shaved my beard because I had to for my government job, and I got carded going into an R-rated movie. And I'm like,
That's crazy.
Bro, I got a wedding ring. Like, what are we doing? He's just like, let me see your ID. And I'm like, God, I was so mad. But I get it because I looked young. And like you said, sometimes it is really hard because I remember, thinking when I was younger, like these seniors in high school look like they're 35. I remember thinking that when I was young. And then you look at nowadays, you think of, oh, well, 35 is not very old, 40 is not very old. But when you start to apply it to like football terms,
Yeah.
I'm thinking Tom Brady's playing football at 40. God, he's old. You know what I mean? For football. But then you apply that perspective to, oh, I guess 40 is not that old. But I think of Tom Brady and I think of Cam Hayward and all these 35 to 40-year-olds, and I'm like, man, they're old. And so it's funny, whatever you apply it to, the perspective's always different. But it's weird that you're in that stage, I'm hitting that stage, and we're just kind of like, man, we're getting up there. But it makes us more mature, Ryan, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
No, it does.
Nah, I guess.
It does. So think about it. This job that you have going for you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it works out and you decide that that's going to be your full-time thing. Maybe you sit back on YouTube, whatever it is, right? In 5 years, wherever you're at, you're going to be able to look back at the last 10 and be like, I was a professional YouTuber in my 20s and maybe potentially going into my 30s.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, like 16 years old to 20 years old, I was the lead singer in a band. Like, I got to live my dream as a rock star super young. I got to be a professional podcaster for outlets that I was massive fans of, all in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And I was depressed the whole time. I was anxious the whole time. I didn't think I was living up to everyone else's standard. I didn't think I was living up to what other people were doing in my life. But I can look back and say that I did that, and not everybody is going to feel that way. So I didn't know during, but I know now. You just said the word perspective, and that was something that I thought about the other day. So I don't know. We try so hard to, over the years, imagine ourselves. This is what I'm supposed to be at 40. This is what I'm supposed to be at 30. This is what I'm supposed to look like. This is what other people, and everybody's just different. And I don't know. I've just realized comparing myself to other people, I'm not perfect at it, but comparing myself to other people is ultimately useless. So anyway,
what's Andy say in The Office? He says, you never realize that you were in the good old days until you look back. And it's absolutely the case. I mean, you look at what you've accomplished, you look at what I've accomplished, and it's kind of like, I always want to be doing something more, and I always want to be even more successful than I am. And that's kind of been both of our mentalities. But like you said, man, when I hit 30 and I look back, I'm going to be pretty proud of what I accomplished, and almost more impressed with myself looking back than I am in the moment, which is pretty cool. And the same thing with you, man. I mean, you look at what you've been doing over the last 10 years, and you just hit your podcasting anniversary, which is awesome. Like, how many people can say that they've been doing something along those lines that they're super passionate about for that long
Yeah.
and being successful in it? Like, that's pretty cool, man. And so, yeah, that's definitely a mentality that I'm, especially now with Riley, trying to have more of an optimistic outlook on everything so she can have a similar outlook when she starts to get older. That's something I hope to kind of pass it, because I was a very optimistic kid. I was always in a good mood, glass half full kind of thing, and I want that to be the same for her, because
Yeah.
life's already going to be difficult for her the crazier things get for those younger generations. So I hope that's kind of the same case with her, because my wife's that way as well. You know, Madison, she's doesn't show a lot of emotions, but she's a very positive person. She's very successful. So I hope that's kind of what our daughter is able to hold herself to as she gets older, which is fun to think about.
Even though this podcast is still pretty young, I think it's experienced its own, sort of growing pains, if you will, because, someone asked me, I was hanging out with some of my buddies last night, and I hadn't seen them in a while. The last time I talked to them, I was going all in on my YouTube channel. I was going all in on like covering Indian cinema. I was going all in on covering topical news and things like that. So they were like, what happened to that? And I was like, honestly, I really just want this job that I got. And I haven't made a YouTube video in God knows how long.
Yeah.
And I realized that just because I can have an opinion on something and do have an opinion or can talk about something, it doesn't mean that I necessarily enjoy it. And I found out very quickly that like spending more time learning about, some of the topics that I was covering, and even stuff that we've carried over into this podcast.
Yep.
Not that we haven't had great discussions on it, but at the same time, I think last week, us being able to do that fantasy draft, it just because that's what we wanted to do and not worry about bringing anything else. Like that's the kind of, going back to the person who commented that one time and was like, I'd like to see Ryan and Austin just get back to the movies. And it's like, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. I wish we were, could get the positivity that we want out of all of these things happening in Hollywood. Like the movies are exciting, the castings are huge, we're going in great directions with some of these big studio films. But it really has, especially lately, I've just been looking at the negative aspects, like, oh no, DC's down the drain, Marvel's ruined, the Acolyte's a failure, studios are pandering to people. I've been so like negative this year about things, and for a good reason. Like, it's not like these things aren't happening, but at the same time, there are really exciting things to talk about and look at as well. And I think we've been more, as of late, you and I have been more kind of focused on that and focused on more so doing what we want to do to have fun with. And I think that fantasy draft was a great example. I think we're going to do a lot of super fun things over the next couple of episodes. And as we get into weekends without a bunch of movies to cover, so hopefully we'll come up with more ideas. But yeah, I had fun with that, and I enjoy getting to sit down and talk about things, man. It's something we don't get to do. Like, I love my wife, I love my friends, but they don't want to talk about movies all the time, and you all do, and so that's a really cool thing.
I'll definitely address the results and just the fallout of the fantasy draft pod here in just a minute. But
I'm not saying it was a success. I'm just saying it was fun. Okay,
right, that's right. So I think that one thing that I've loved over the last few weeks is just not like going in on social media. I haven't been watching a ton of YouTube videos in this space. I'm probably going to delete. I'm thinking about deleting X, honestly. Okay. Not because I have an issue with the app specifically, but just to give myself more time to do other things. I do spend a lot of time on X. If anything, I just want to watch TikToks, just silly TikToks. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Instagram. Instagram was my favorite app, but it's the app that has honestly just become the most useless to me.
Hmm.
Less and less people use it. And I mean, I'm primarily speaking personally. I don't know how it is with, your brand account or whatever, but I just know personally, just from having mostly people I know as followers, just not really popping off. So I don't know really why I'm on it, but it's been so nice. My head is much more clear. Whatever controversy is happening, I'm unaware of it. Like, I just don't know. I don't know if anybody's still doing any of the stuff with Nerdrotic, and I just have any of that Geeks and Gamers, no clue. If it is, other people are involved, other people are unhappy, but I'm kind of doing fine. So it's been nice.
Yeah, I would. There's so much toxicity on Twitter. It's ridiculous. X. Yeah, X. Nobody calls it that. I do. There's so much toxicity on that platform. It's ridiculous. I would have a hard time deleting it just because that's where I get like all my news beyond movies, like my sports guys. I'm always tweeting Steeler memes. I love getting into the heads of other teams' fans because I'm not in the sports world, but I've made friends with all those Steelers guys on Twitter. And so we just mess with Browns fans and mess with Bengals fans. So that aspect of it's really fun. And I piss a lot of people off. But it is definitely something, if you spend too long, and we both did this a couple months ago, just looking at these takedown threads and looking at these things, trying to incite arguments and finding people on Twitter that were tweeting bad things about me because people were tagging me. But it's just like, because of an opinion on a movie, it's such an insane group of people. If you think about it, if you spend too much time there. And so I'm with you. I found myself doing less of that and spending less time looking and diving into the toxicity because I do it myself. And I remember being with Sean Chandler and John. We were hanging out in a bar one day, and he was just like, he's like, man, you get a lot of Twitter notifications, because I had notifications on for everybody, and I'm like, yeah, I do. It's constantly, and no wonder I'm on that platform all the time, because I have all the notifications turned on, and I'm always having a reason to click on it, but not having that reason as of late, turning notifications off and just kind of taking some time for myself has been really nice. And so social media is a great thing, but it can also be a horrible thing if you're in the wrong places and if you are taking criticism to heart. Criticism is important, but don't take it to heart in the wrong way. And that's something that I found has really kind of just made me feel more at ease when I don't spend as much time on it.
Yeah. Again, going back to hanging out with my buddies last night, I'm the one who's been most active on social media for obvious reasons. I mean, I've been doing a million podcasts, YouTube channels, all that kind of stuff over the years. And I told them last night, I was like, you know what? I'm admired. Like, one dude just never got social media. And I was like, I'm sure you're just much more happy. And like everything I'm speaking to, he has like times 100. Like, I could cite just a TikTok trend and he wouldn't be able to even like comprehend what I was saying. And I'm kind of jealous of that. So, but to varying degrees, they just like aren't on social media, or they'll post something once every like 6 months or something. And I'm like, yeah, I want to get to that level.
You're telling me they don't know who the Costco guys are? 5 out of 5 booms?
Honestly, I should have asked. I should have we should have played a little game like, hey, let's see what my friend knows about TikTok. His girlfriend is probably on it, so he probably has a little bit of knowledge indirectly. But anyway, all right, let's address last week's episode, the fantasy draft. First of all, I cannot wait to do more episodes like it.
Yeah, me too. That was fun.
At the same time, it was very clearly the first time we had ever done something like that. I have not really talked to you about how you feel. There were people were commenting things about the episode that I had either like forgotten or not actually realized in the moment had happened. So I texted you. Andy Mendoza addressed a coin toss controversy. So I kind of don't even know what he's talking about.
Mhm.
I refused to go back and listen to the episode. So right off the bat, did I mess up the coin toss?
I think you did.
Oh God.
I think you did. No, it's fine because I think I think I said it really fast, and I said it so fast that you thought I said tails. But what I remember saying tails never fails, but screw it, I'm going heads. But I believe you thought I
Okay.
said tails never
I
fails.
thought you said tails.
And I don't think you picked up on the screw it, I'm going heads. But you acknowledged it as the coin was basically in the air. And so I'm like, okay, I'll take tails. So I wasn't super bothered by it because it wasn't once the result happened. It was more so before the result happened. And so I'm like, all right, I'll take tails.
Okay.
And then I lost
So-
anyway. So
But
I
you
did
said
initially
tails
say
never
heads.
fails.
Yeah.
And I flipped it and I said Austin picked tails, and then
I believe so. It's either
Okay.
it's something along the lines of that. Yeah, it was something like that.
Whoops. I take full responsibility for this entire episode, by the way. But also, I messed up a lot of the release dates, and I kind of admitted I knew that anyway, because following along, whatever website I had, the website is probably like doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And it kind of just goes back to this frustration I've had over the years with how movies are released and things. And so it was really annoying to read from week to week, guys. Like, I think Birdman was an example of this. It would say like Los Angeles and New York 1 week, and then expanded release. And there would like be consecutive entries for Birdman. And I didn't know I don't know if that was literally the film, but just an example. So I'd have to just pick what week I put Birdman in. So, and then it's another one of those things too, is every time you just Google the release date for a movie, if you Google the release date for Joker Folie à Deux, I think it has the film festival date.
Yeah,
if I'm
a
not
lot of them
mistaken.
do.
Maybe not that specific movie, but I've definitely seen that happen.
Well, if you go
no,
on,
it's not that one.
if you go on Letterboxd, there are so many movies, and I will put them on my. Say a movie actually came out in 2018. I'll put it on my 2018 list, and then on Letterboxd it'll say 2017 in parentheses because that was the film festival premiere date. And so those people are always like, but it came out in 2017. And I'm like, well, not wide release. And so those are always something that it never lines up when you look at a website because it's always a very specific release date that may not be what you're looking for.
And I am someone who believes the wide release date should be
Agreed.
the opening date.
Agreed.
There should be nothing else. It doesn't matter if it debuted at a festival a year before. When it goes wide, that is when a movie's release date is. I'm sorry. Because I'm not going to count it if the release date is just for the people to see it in Los Angeles and New York.
Yeah.
Just for Oscar consideration. And then sometimes movies come out limited in, like you said, in December, and then it'll go wide in January. And so it's like, then based on my own ideology, that movie shouldn't count for that year's top 10.
Yep.
Like there was one time I think it was Shape of Water.
Okay.
I did not see Shape of Water until like late March the following year.
Yeah.
First of all, that is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I don't care. I don't care if the release date is limited the last week of December.
Yep.
That's one thing that like streaming VOD should have solved. If you have an independent movie and you are trying to get the world to see it, and you open it independently because it might not earn at the box office wide release, if we're doing what we're doing with Joker Folia Do, and it goes straight to streaming the same month that it was released, every single independent release should be done like that. I would even argue that independent releases should do the day and date that Max experimented with. I like We Live in Time should be ready for me to view at home in 30 days.
There are so many smaller movies, and I'm not talking about y'all, because y'all are the big movie fans like Ryan and I are, but I'm talking about friends and family that they have never heard of, because those movies were in theaters for 2 weeks, limited, maybe only at the Regal, and they don't actually come out until like 3 months later. No wonder they've never heard of these movies, because the general audience, they're not going to the cinema like we are. They're not going once a week. They're going once a month. And so to get exposure to some of these smaller films, like, this year we've got Anora coming out. We've got The Brutalist coming out. All these films that are going to make a splash Oscar-wise, but they're not going to make a splash to the general public maybe until they get those Oscar nominations and get re-released. But that's a shame, man, because these are films that I think people should see, and doing day and date streaming releases, having more exposure to these movies, I think is a good thing. And so why not do that for some of these smaller players?
This was all a build up to another mistake I made. I included Zack Snyder's Justice League. I made that list that we played off of, guys. So Austin was just playing the cards that I dealt him, but
I still should have.
Someone in once the guy said this came out in March, I remembered it that way. And I was like, yeah, why did I let it get past me? So I guess it was on the website, because I didn't even know that movie had a limited theatrical run.
Yep.
Like post-streaming release, like, I don't know, like a year later or something. Is that right?
Yeah, I remember it. The initial streaming release was the earlier date, and then I remember the announcement that it was coming to theaters and people were freaking out. And I think that date that you used was the theater date as opposed to the streaming date. But again, at the time, I didn't think anything of it. And so I should have jogged my own memory, because I remember that being the case. I just didn't think about it in the moment.
Yeah. We could have spun it to where, like, oh, it still counts, but no. it doesn't work, because it was picked as a streaming kicker. So I guess, like, if we had said, well, it did, that, the way that you claim Holdovers is a family film. Well, Zack Snyder's Justice League technically came out. So if it wasn't a streaming play in the game, it would have been fine. But so off air, and I addressed it in our community post, off air, we had you pick another movie, and I was already kind of feeling guilty about the game anyway. So you were just like, let's go Irishman. And I was like, yeah, just take Irishman.
I will say, though, it is funny when I think about how passionate I was for Justice League. And, like, we spent 10 minutes on that. And
it was strategy.
It didn't even count. Like, it's just like, it's funny to think about.
Yeah. Anyway, anything else on that? What have you thought about over the last week?
No, I've seen some people that say Holdovers isn't a family film. I got a text, somebody that agreed with me, and they said, I like your Holdovers argument. I said, thank you.
Give me a break. Speak out, you coward. Whoever you are. Whoever you are. Speak up.
I think they were afraid to comment it, to be honest with you, but they said they liked my argument. And I'm doubling down on it. I completely agree with myself. I think I'm a genius. But the Zack Snyder's thing is hilarious. I think some of the mistakes actually make for, when you're looking back on it, make for a funnier podcast than maybe we intended.
Yeah.
But I'm doubling down on the fact that I had a good time with that. And so, we're going to have to make tweaks and adjustments and obviously figure some things out for next time. But I loved the idea, and I want to do more like it. And so however we adjust, I say we adjust and try it again.
Oh, no, we're definitely doing it again.
It's great, man.
Absolutely. So
someone said it was tedious, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand.
No, I get it. Yeah. It's 2.5 hours. It'll be shorter. It'll be breezier.
We'll work on it.
I think we learned our lesson too. Just talk more about the movies on the list as we're going. Probably involves the audience a little bit more.
Agreed.
I just want to go over the results real quick. I'm not making anything up. I'm not falsifying information, guys. These are on the YouTube community post, so you can look them up. I posted images of Letterboxd lists I made. You can follow me on Letterboxd at Rewatch Ryan. And I'll publicize the full list too, but I have it up by month. So
cool.
I thought October was the tightest month for us.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. I was a little arrogant. I was a little cocky. I thought you made a big mistake.
Yeah.
With The Lighthouse and All Quiet on the Western Front. Because The Lighthouse, I thought, was divisive, and I'm counting on people not really liking it. And All Quiet, I just never felt heat from that movie. So I thought my only downfall was that I picked Horns, a movie that people don't really discuss, right? So I thought everything else, I thought you were going to lose. October, I'm not going to lie. October, you steamrolled me.
Really?
Yes. You got 12 votes, and I got 5.
Wow.
And that is the largest differential in the entire contest. More than doubled what I got. Just obliterated me. And I thought I was so slick picking El Camino, too. I'm like, that's sort of a cheat, right? Like, here's the best TV show. Let's get the movie from that franchise. Bring it in here. I thought I was so slick, but you destroyed me in October. So congratulations to you.
Thanks, man. I haven't looked at any of these results, and so I am trusting you. I thought that would be I thought that would be closer, to be honest with you. I do want to say though, prepping for November, I do regret not going Interstellar when I should have. That's the one movie that I think is going to tip the scales in your favor, because I feel bad about December and November. I think this is just my guess because I haven't looked. I think Interstellar might tip the scales for you. And so maybe my holdover strategy was a bad strategy, but I had to go with my heart, man.
I understand. I left that game knowing I'd beaten you in December.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Just because of Spider-Verse, I think, was the one that did it.
Yeah, again, I thought I was cocky. I was arrogant. I was like, Spider-Verse has to be my first one. But anyway, you won the first round. So in November, this was the closest race.
That makes sense.
And you picking The Irishman for the vote scared me more.
Okay.
But I thought that, and this wasn't your fault because it was one of the weakest weeks of the entire game. You picking Waves, I thought was maybe the worst pick of the draft.
But I mean, that was it though, right? There were no other movies left for
the sake of the game, not because I'm shaming you for the sake of the game. But so I won 9-6.
Okay.
In October.
I think it was Interstellar, man. I really do.
Interstellar, Knives Out seemed to be my buddy David Bell said he voted for me purely because of Overlord, which that made me happy.
Oh, okay.
Which is hilarious. Yeah. There was something else I was going to say too. Oh, guys, I didn't count my vote. If you look on the community post, I voted for myself. It was a joke. I didn't count it. And then somebody kind of didn't say who they voted for, but they said Knives Out and Interstellar is too hard to argue against. But they didn't literally say Ryan and Austin. I did count that as a Ryan because I thought it was obvious and everybody can put that together. But anyway, next time when I say vote, just say the name. And then in December, I felt pretty good about December the entire time. Not gonna lie. I thought you picking 2 musicals was a mistake. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, but again, man, like what am I left with after Spider-Verse?
That's true.
It's like when you took Spider-Verse, I said it's over. Like that's December.
No, you did not. That was my first pick.
But what other, like, it's not even Avatar. It's not like people are going to be more excited about Avatar than Spider-Verse. That was it.
Yeah, but the movies that you picked around that, like the way that the game played out, you could have kept building your December more.
I don't know.
I mean, it could have played out differently. You could have gotten one or two of mine throughout the game.
Yeah.
Because we could pick whatever week we wanted.
I guess.
I won 9-5 in December. So
Yeah.
I actually didn't have as much of a lead as I thought I would, but 9-5. So,
I am surprised, yeah.
I won. Go on and comment below that the game is rigged, that I botched the coin toss, so that I could win, that I threw in Zack Snyder's Justice League to throw out. No, there's no way I would have guessed that you picked that, honestly. But anyway, so start the conspiracies down below. It would matter more if there was a prize, but there isn't. So anyway,
I'm going to claim that if Zack Snyder's Justice League would have been in there, I would have had a better shot. I'm going to claim that. Even though my personal philosophy is that I disagree with that, but at the same time, I know there are some hardcore DCEU fans that maybe would have gave me that.
yeah.
And some people that didn't actually listen to the episode that would have seen Zack Snyder's Justice League and been like, there we go, No. But again, it was a comedic 10 minutes of me arguing for that movie.
Yeah. It was fun. It was fun. All right, quick question.
Yeah.
Are you excited by the first reactions to Gladiator 2?
Yeah, I saw somebody posted a picture of like 7 tweets, and all of the tweets were like the most hyped, which granted, first screening, people are going to be freaking out, but I think I got exactly what I needed from those reactions, and I'm going to try my best to not look at anything else before this movie.
Yeah. I didn't read too in depth on anything. I just saw that Scott Mantz was sort of losing his mind.
Scott Mantz.
And Sean Chandler even pointed out, like, this wasn't like a TikTok, like, influencer screening. It was for critics.
It was.
That have no problem taking Ridley Scott down when he doesn't perform and when he doesn't deliver. So, Ridley Scott is a compiler. He's inconsistent, but when he delivers, he delivers. So just thank God. Thank God. Who cares about the rap song in the trailer now? Who cares that this one's shot on digital and not like, I'm just so glad Gladiator 2 is good. So can't wait. It's a long road to Gladiator 2. The movies that the person asked me about in the comments last week that were like, long road to Gladiator 2, what about? I don't even remember what those movies are because Gladiator 2 is the only thing that matters. And Todd Phillips is a hack. That's a quick recap. Anyway, that's a recap on what fall's been like. How sick has the Penguin been the last couple of weeks?
Well, I can tell you this. It gets sicker.
God.
Think about as sick as you could be. I'm talking like pneumonia levels of sick. It just keeps getting sicker, man. And 4, 5, 6, that run, that is a generational run of episodes. Let me tell you. So when we get into 5 and then 6, man, I'm telling you, it's a great show, dude.
So the 4th episode, this past episode was, and guys, I guess this episode comes out when the 5th episode. All right, I'm talking about episode 4. The first episode with Mark Strong. It's funny. I didn't really think anything of them switching out the actor. Mark Strong doesn't do a John Turturro impression by any means.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see the first look pictures, it looks worse because, and I know this is ridiculous, but guys, I'm an expert when it comes to hairlines. All right. So I'm seeing the behind the set photo of Mark Strong. He has the receding hairline and then a massive widow's peak with like wearing the Carmine Falcone wig. And a lot of those behind the scene, it doesn't really appear that way in the show. So in the show, he looks more like Carmine Falcone than we were led to believe. So I don't really know what's up with that, but I guess that goes to show you can't trust those like unofficial set photos or anything. So it really didn't bother me. But He was great, and Kristen Milioti
Mm.
is wonderful.
Mm.
And anyway, just great stuff so far. I like the kid more. Like that was really the only thing it wasn't. I like the kid more too, and everything's just gelling for me with that show.
Every everything I said about Sophia Falcone in my review, watching, because I've now seen episode 4 twice, just really cemented her status as a character. Like, I want to see more of this character going forward. I want to see different incarnations of her. I just think she is such, I mean, this is a great example too of you create something in a world where people kind of get upset if we're bringing in new villains. Like, why aren't we doing the Joker? Why aren't we doing the Penguin? Why aren't we doing all this? No, create. And Sophia Falcone has existed before, but you give her something to do on this level and make her the new boss of things and make her the central focus of this show besides Penguin. That is a brilliant move. And her performance is, I think, Emmy worthy. And you're going to continue to feel that way as you go throughout this show. This is so impressive what they've been able to add to the Batman universe. And I would be more than happy if we continue to see those different incarnations of Sophia Falcone in other projects.
This probably isn't where we should talk about this, but is Flickpick giving this a chance? Or is he stopping after the first episode?
I don't know. I need to text him and ask him, because I remember he didn't like episode 1, and I don't know if he ever got to episode 2. So I need to ask him. I hope he is, because I feel like this is a show that he would really like. He should give it a shot.
Well, he called it filler, and I don't feel that way. Like it's obviously a bridge connecting the movies. We don't really know how yet, but it doesn't feel like filler to me. It honestly just. I think it's great. I think it stands on its own. And the fact that it's growing week to week, I think everybody's kind of picking up on that too.
Agreed.
I'm rewatching Lost, obviously, and it was funny to watch season 2 of Lost while watching episodes 3 and 4 of The Penguin, because so many actors cross over. So Clancy Brown had his little stint on Lost for a couple of episodes. The leader of the Triads, played by, I believe it's Francois Chow. He's obviously in Lost. And Theo Rossi. I totally forgot. Theo Rossi is one of Saeed's flashbacks, is like an American military guy. You can't even like really see his face. And he's got like one line, like it's a nothing role. But anyway, I just thought it was fun.
Let me give you now that the show's out, I can give you a little insight on Theo Rossi. When we were at, I think this was Orlando. I believe it was Orlando. We got to talk to Theo Rossi.
Oh, really?
He had a, they've got all the tables and they're each actors behind the table and they're signing autographs and things like that. And I think it was Sean. I don't know. I think it was just Sean and I. We were walking around, Sean Chandler, and kind of looking and seeing who was available. You've got, SpongeBob actors signing autographs. And then you got Theo Rossi, who had just got done talking to a fan who was taking a break off to the side of his table. And so Sean and I were walking by and we had badges on. And so we just started talking to him. And
really?
Somebody asked him, walked by and said, "Hey, I heard you were in the Penguin." And he goes, "Holy shit." And he looked at us and he goes, "Holy shit." And we were like, "Is it good?" And he goes, "This show is unbelievable." And we were like, "Yes." And I didn't know he was even in the Penguin at the time. And so I was like, holy, because I was just excited because he's been in Marvel projects and he's been in a lot of these TV roles. But I was just excited to hear him say, and he's like, guys, he's like, we're talking brutal, we're talking R-rated, we're talking all this stuff. And we're like, I didn't know if I could believe him on that or not. I didn't know if the Penguin's not going to be, but he was right. So everything he told us was spot on. And it was really cool to see him get giddy over the Penguin. And his role gets a little more expanded as the show goes. And so he has a bigger impact. So it was just cool to see what he said come to fruition. And when I saw him in the show, I'm like, that is awesome.
I wish actors talked more like that.
He was so down to earth, just had a full conversation with us, and people are paying to have conversations with him, and he's just off to the side. Fans are walking by, and he's like, the Penguin, like the coolest guy, man. He was so down to earth.
That's cool. Yeah, I've always wondered why actors don't. It's because they're thinking about being actors.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear. Glenn Powell is great at coming off as a fan of things.
Yes.
Isaac Gonzalez does it a lot too. She's not high profile of a name, but she'll just like gush over things on her Instagram and like just talking about certain movies that she loves. And I just wish we heard more about actors loving things that they love instead of just being like, yeah, listen to Todd Phillips' idea and I thought he had an interesting vision. And it's like, tell us how like this shit is sick, because it reminded you of when you grew up watching this movie, and like people who really like Scorsese are going to be into this because this. And it's like, talk to us like the way that we want to be talked to, spoken to.
I'll tell you a high profile actor that I've seen, maybe not all the time, but I've seen get giddy like that before, is sometimes when Matt Damon's excited about a project, he'll kind of get like that. Like, oh my God, this was so good. Like that kind of giddiness. And I'm like, why can't all actors be that excited about the projects that they're a part of? Like, it's so fun to see when those high profile names are like that.
It was probably been 10 years ago now, but I remember Tom Cruise did like a run on Late Show and Tonight Show when he was telling every host, he's had to sit down with every host and told them that he watches a movie a day, or he like tries to. And I just want the person to be like, what movie did you watch yesterday? And I want him to just be like, The Incredible Hulk, and then talk about that movie or whatever it is. Like,
it's his favorite movie.
Like that's what I want to hear. I don't, nothing else. I just want actors to come off normal. I don't like when actors come off like pretentious and just like freaks, because actors are just weird fucking people. Like, have you seen like these Jeremy Strong interviews? I've sent you a couple on TikTok, but I never know if you see me on TikTok. Jeremy Strong is just like one of these guys that he's just too into being an actor sometimes. And I'm like, I like you, man, but you're taking this a little too seriously.
It's too much. To me, it's too much.
But like, if you're going to be performative anyway, because you're performative in a PR sense when you go on those shows, so why are you being performative about like other aspects of being an actor? Be performative and like appeal to people, because general people on TikToks don't want to hear Jeremy Strong. What was the thing that I can't even remember what the video was, but it just makes me roll my eyes when actors get this way. Joaquin Phoenix is also like that too, but
that's the name I was going to mention. Joaquin Phoenix is very much like that. He just gets a little too, I think he's a phenomenal actor, but sometimes he gets too far and then he's gone at that point. I can't keep up with you, man. You're a little too crazy for me.
It's almost like, as a fan, I appreciate an actor being really mysterious and private, or like appealing to the fans. I think athletes do a better job at that. There are a lot of boring athletes that you don't like. When they speak, you're just like, okay, you just said nothing. I never want to hear from you. But you like build a mythology around them. And they are still larger than life athletes. Or athletes can come across super cool and then take over the world, like Pat McAfee. Like, even though I find him annoying, but
I
he's
love
cool
Pat.
nonetheless.
I love Pat.
Sports talk radio in general annoys me, but it's not his fault. But anyway, I think actors could do better. Right now, we're in this phase where we just assume every private actor is a pedophile too. Have you seen all the TikToks where it's like, these are all the people who have left the United States since P. Diddy got arrested? And it's like, I mean, maybe, but
It's possible, man. I mean, at this point, like with all the P Diddy stuff, 10 years ago, I would have claimed everyone was crazy, but now I'm kind of like, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think so, but I'm not going to rule it out, you know. But I do
Yeah.
think people get so caught up in that it's like, oh, this happens to one person, so it's obviously everyone. It's like, no, man. Some actors are just really cool people that maybe don't want to be a part of that. So that's kind of, oh, hello. I think my battery died on my camera.
On your camera.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is amazing. I didn't realize. Do you have a webcam?
I have a camera, and I just realized that the battery is the one that I used for the wedding yesterday. So give me a second. Let's do a cool transition.
I don't remember what we were talking about, but that's okay. Because we're here to talk about
Catholic
movies
weddings?
and new releases. Catholic weddings, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We Live in Time is a film that I have not seen, but you did. And I'm kind of curious to know where you land on it, because with every movie like this, and I think for the most part, I think these types of movies always land on, like, we've seen this kind of stuff before, manipulative, emotionally. There's going to be people that, Stan, Florence Pugh, and Andrew Garfield getting together in real life. We just go around and around, and then ultimately, maybe it's just another, romantic dramedy that we just kind of forget about. Maybe not forget about, but it could just be a movie that doesn't pop up on a top 10 list or anything. So it doesn't happen often.
Mm-hmm.
This type of movie makes it, at least in our standards, maybe, until you tell me that it does. So is this just another, let's put the hottest two people together that we want to see in a movie together, even though the movie ultimately doesn't deliver and doesn't have anything new to say? Or does it have something interesting to say?
I don't know if this movie does anything new. I don't know if this movie does anything that we haven't seen story-wise. What I liked about this film is that it's not just another get your tissues out, we're going to have a sob fest, we're going to manipulate you emotionally, because that's how I often feel about these romantic, tragic, emotional, somebody's got a disease or someone knows they're going to die. We've seen these work, but it's more rare than the generic studio bleh that we often get. And I know a lot of people are going to get mad at me because a lot of people hold those movies close to their hearts. That's fine. We Live in Time surprised me because it handles the obvious tragedy of it all in a very optimistic way. It doesn't focus so much on what she's going through, the horrible things that she's going through. It's more so, I'm going to try to do everything I can here and now to make my life worth living. And I want to be remembered for more than just a couple of things that she's going through in the film. And obviously in the movie, we see in the trailer that there's a kid, they have a baby. And I'll tell you what, this movie's also a lot funnier than I expected, because the scene of them having that child was actually really, really funny, like really charming, and especially someone that's been through that now. I guess my wife went through it more than I did. But just kind of looking at that situation and having two top tier actors in that situation. But she wants to be remembered for more than just her diagnosis, for being a mother. I want to be successful. I want to go and accomplish the things that I want to accomplish and live in the now as opposed to thinking about tomorrow. And that's one thing that I found really nice about this film, is it had a very optimistic outlook rather than what I think some people have made this movie out to be. And that's just, oh, you're going to cry the whole time, bring your tissues. Like, I never felt that way until, obviously you get further into the film, the more it starts to become overwhelming. But I never felt that way. I was like, this is a great couple. These are two awesome characters. Circumstantially, how they find each other is really funny. And their interactions are great. And yeah, they're going to have some things get in the way of that. But a lot of that is circumstantial, because she's having to deal with a lot and he's having to comfort her through that. But at the same time, man, it's more just highlighting the beauty. It's almost like what, very different film, but Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind really highlighted the highs of life together. And very different movie here, but we're highlighting the highs of these two together. And that was really nice to see. And so when they do struggle, and especially when she struggles health wise, you kind of feel more as you go. And you're kind of like, oh, this is why they got Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh for these scenes, because they're so freaking good together. And so, it doesn't change the game story wise, but structure wise, it tells it out of order, which I found to be a very interesting thing. And it's feels more like that A24. There had to be an A24 kick. That's what it is, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was really just let's look back at all the things that made this great, and let's have an optimistic outlook. And that was refreshing for me. So that's why I enjoyed this movie. It wasn't that very pessimistic view, and it wasn't just a sob fest the entire time.
That is great to hear. Garfield and Pugh's chemistry is undeniable. Just from watching their interviews and everything going on in the press and stuff, like shipping those two, it's like just the easiest assignment for fandom. It's like, come on, how is this not a thing? But
so good.
I'm excited. I'm a fan of both. I am encouraged by your words, and I'm excited to see it more than ever.
Yeah.
In 30 days, because it'll be streaming at home. No, it won't. Just kidding. It should be, though. But yeah, I'm glad.
It's good, man. I think you'll get more out of it. You're not going to be, your world isn't going to change, but you'll get more out of it. And it's cool to see these two elite talents play off of each other. And it's like the whole time you're like, oh, that's why they cast them, because they're just so freaking talented, man. They could make a bad script good, but they made a decent script even better, which was nice to see.
And the chicken shop girl finally got her date with Andrew Garfield. So good for her. She did.
Their chemistry is great too, by the way. I watched a little bit of that. It was awesome.
Yeah. Did you watch Peter Dinklage on Hot Ones?
Yeah, I watched a clip. I didn't watch the full thing, but just 30 seconds on Twitter. It looked outstanding.
Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
It was fun.
Pretty
good episode.
I like Dinklage. I did, by the way, before we shift into Smile 2, I watched Brothers, which is which is the reason why Dinklage and Brolin have been doing these press things, and it's not very good. So
damn.
Yeah.
You know what? That goes back to what I said before. This is why I don't like when actors are actory in their answers, because one of the questions on Hot Ones is like, what appeals to you most when it comes to picking a project? And then Peter Dinklage, because he's a great actor, a wonderful actor, but he says dialogue. And when actors say things like that, it immediately registers to me, what about all the lame movies you've been in with bad dialogue? So I just imagine, because I didn't know Brothers was a thing until the Hot Ones episode, but you watched the movie before you potentially watched the Hot Ones interview. So you would also have a similar reaction, probably, if that's how you felt. Mm-hmm. When Peter Dinklage says, I'm attracted to dialogue, and you're like, wait a minute, I just watched you in Brothers. His character in Infinity War is maybe the dumbest thing about Infinity War.
Oh, I forgot he was in Infinity War. Wow.
He's just so cartoony. He needs the axe. It's like, give him the axe. It's the heart of a dying star. I'm sorry. I'm not even sure that I knew that I felt that way until right now. But that's how I feel. It's stupid, that character. I like stupid, Peter Dinklage, but anyway. He needs the axe. Anyway, yes, actors look, you don't always have control what a movie's like when it actually is released. You only go by the script, and sure, it can be changed a lot, but I feel like you you kind of know at the same time. Anyway.
You know what Brothers was? Brothers was the Wolves of that genre.
Oh God.
It was the
So it was a
Wolves.
nothing movie.
It was a nothing, like it had this, it tried to go for this like, oh brother, where art thou sense of humor, but mixed with a crime film because they're a crime family. And it just like empty dialogue. I love the actors. I mean, it's a stacked Brendan Fraser's in the movie. He was actually really funny, but it's such a nothing plot with a nothing story. And I've already forgotten who was what. And I watched it 3 days ago. So and I didn't even do a full review. It wasn't even worth my time to do a full review. I did a short. So
does it do the cliche move of like, oh, it's two unsuspecting people accidentally got involved in a drug operation or some shit like that?
It's definitely similar-ish. Not necessarily that, but they get in a situation that it's kind of along those lines of stupidity type thing. They're brothers, but they don't. I don't know. It was just a weird movie.